Hey everybody, this is Jonathan Moore, the Hometown Historian channel. Just giving a basic explanation of what's going on right now. I'm doing okay. I just had to wind out getting the cast boot on, so this is actually a cast and I have it inside this gargantuan boot. So as of right now, I cannot drive. Put the boot up on my other leg, which will probably be painful after a while, but I have to wear this till next Tuesday, and then they'll take it off, which is slightly terrifying if you ever had a cast taken off. Um, and then they'll put another one on. So I think I'll at least have to have one of these on for probably through, I would think, somewhere first week of March, maybe at the earliest. So right now I'm not gonna be able to drive. I do have a number of live videos that I do have already done. It's just a matter of editing them and getting them up there, and then we'll have a bunch of other stuff which we'll go over here in a couple minutes. I just wanted to make you guys aware, especially to Kate and Robbie and anybody else that contacts me normally with email, those types of things. I'm not ignoring you. I know you guys understand that. I just a lot going on right now. It's been about 2 or 3 weeks where it's really been intermittent me being able to go out and film, just because there's just been a lot of stuff going on. A lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. Now, a couple of those things have been resolved, which has been great, but some of the bigger ones like disability and unemployment are just sort of where they're at. Hopefully, we'll come to some kind of resolution on those soon, but that'll take a lot of stress away. But I sort of been struggling with slightly being on and off sick, but just more than anything, just being beat. So that's why there hasn't been a terribly great regularity like I normally have been having here for the last couple months. Sort of just beat, not giving up or anything. Just one of those things where you're just tired and just exhausted. And then, you have the anxiety on top of that of some things that just need to be resolved because I'm not able to do certain things that like work regularly or anything like that. So it's trying to come up with the funds to take care of certain bills and stuff like that. And thankfully, an individual from my life has been incredibly gracious to me to help me out with some of those things. So those are taken care of. It's just now I got the cast boot. Now it's sort of being delayed because of sickness on and off, and just not being able to go into the office and just get things scheduled. So this sort of makes it hard to be maneuverable at all. And really, I'm not supposed to be on my feet, be off as much as possible so this thing finally heals. It's just a little tiny ulcer that's on the bottom of the foot, but it's right behind the big toe, so it's one of the major pressure points, which makes it very, very difficult for me to do what I'm doing. But I did go up to Millersburg last Sunday. I was looking for my grandparent Walburn's gravesite. My cousin Doug had given me the section and the lot number. Unfortunately, section numbers, or section letters, I should say, because this was Section A, Lot 170. There's not really a rhyme or reason to the way they do things at that cemetery. So I got to contact them directly and see if they can give me a better idea of where it's located, because they're actually not on Find a Grave, but my cousin Doug was able to verify that they are, in fact, buried there, because probably about 10 years ago, my mom was still able to walk on her own. We went up to Oak Hill Cemetery in Millersburg, and that's where she said they were buried, and she semi remembered where she thought that they were, but her memory was starting to go at that stage with dementia, and we weren't able to locate it. I went up Sunday, probably did quite a bit more walking than I should have, but I spent about 2 hours in the cemetery, maybe walked about a third of it, but it's cemetery with about 5,500 graves, so it's a decent size, not huge, but way too big for me, and it's sort of one of those things where it's hilly, and that doesn't work well either, because whenever I step into a basic hole, my back goes out, and I finally gave up. But I was able to visit my aunt and uncle's grave in Muir, Pennsylvania, so learned a couple cool things there as well, that my Uncle Art and Aunt Althea went to an evangelical congregational church, which is where I go now, an evangelical congregational church, and I think that church since then has shut down, but that was the church that was founded by Jacob Albright and John Walter, and a very very cool church. And it was neat to hear that that's the church that they went to, because I didn't I assumed they went to like a Methodist church or something like that, because there's a couple in that area, United Church of Christ, and it turned out they went to ECC Church. So that was a neat find. And that was the first time I had been at my aunt and uncle's gravesite. Just because of my mom's health during that time, it's like that. It was very difficult. We were able to go to my Uncle Art's funeral, but not to the cemetery then, because it was just a bit too much for her. But anywho, it was a good day. Got a couple things filmed. Told a bunch of stories about my mom and her days in Millersburg, that type of stuff. I think I'm going to start a new series as well, something that was just going through my mind. I tell a bunch of the different stories in The Boys of the Fallen Sun are actually stories from my dad, things that he did in his childhood, things that his dad did in his childhood, things that his grandpa Brown on his mom's side did as a child, and sort of those. It's an amalgamation of all those stories is what makes up Boys of the Fallen Sun and the Risen Moon. So I think I'd go to the locations at some point. I won't be able to do it for the next couple of weeks, but start telling stories, like family stories, like my hometown history, which I think I find it interesting. And there's some funny stories and stuff like that, just some things that they did, and I think that would be fun. The other new series that we're going to be starting, which the first couple, thanks to Pat, they have sent me a smorgasbord of really cool historical items and stories and about people. And one of the things, like I did, starting the series semi with the Milton Hershey and H.B. Reese when we stopped by the Hershey Cemetery. And that was more of an introduction than anything. I want to do a story on people that were very influential. So I might wind up doing some of those with the ones that Pat has given me. I also have a number of other things of information. Colleen has given me a ton of stuff that I can go back to and do some of those. Kim had sent me one from a Pennsylvania historic marker, which we'll do. Found some other pretty cool, intriguing stories, and John and I have talked a lot about. He was mentioning he really likes the Invention series, so I want to do maybe a couple of those. There's a hometown heroine, Elizabeth Brown, who was an astrophysicist, I believe. Probably wrong about her astrology. I don't know how I got that. She's an astrologist back in the 1800s, and that was very uncommon. And she really is a heroine of hometown history, so we want to do one on her. And there's a number of other things as well that I want to start getting back. Now I'm starting to feel a little bit better, and I'll have the time, because I can't really do anything because of the good old right leg. We'll start getting back into some of those and getting the shorts going as well, because I have a number of those filmed as well, and I have a lot of different stuff that I can wind out doing on that. I'll just be doing it audio wise, but it probably is going to be the next 3 weeks are going to be that, until we can finally get out live filming again, because I just physically can't. But so to all you that do contact me, like Kate, Robbie, John, I think John I've been pretty consistent with, because it does that on Messenger. It is one of those things where you get sort of overwhelmed and with everything that's going on, and I got to get back on that and get my communication. I'm not real great with that to begin with. Never have. It's never been a strong suit of mine. So I do apologize for that. But we got a lot of great things coming up with the channel. Couple cool different cemeteries that I did. The one I got to figure out how I'm going to approach it, because it's technically private land. Well, it is private land, and it's posted, but it's right off the road where this cemetery is, and it's got a really cool history, because they have two churches in this central Pennsylvania area near the Swatara called the Lost Churches of the Swatara. One of them is a church cemetery that I visited. I believe via Pennsylvania law, you do have a right of way to be able to visit a cemetery. I'm just very, very careful about filming on ones that are on private property, just because I got to clarify those things a little bit more so I know where I'm. And I want to, not be observing people's rights to their private property and stuff like that. Because you start putting videos out like that, you can wind up creating problems for yourself and your channel, and I prefer not to do that. But I got to figure out how I'm going to exactly approach that video. The other one, one of my friends who does YouTube did throw some warnings out there when you do church cemeteries. Some of them can be pretty weird about it. So I got to figure out how I want to approach that, because it's one of those that it's a small. Pennsylvania has a lot of these really, I think across the United States has these towns, but they're named after one family who's the first settling family. And back when they first settled, like a lot of small towns like that, they were all self-sufficient because you didn't have your Walmarts and things of that nature. So everything you needed was in that small town. And when those small towns were not located along the rail lines, for instance, that existence sort of continued for years to come yet, until eventually then you started having the automobile really becoming as important as it was, and it had moved along far enough that the common man could afford it. So now they could go, a trip from Shirksville, for instance, to Fredericksburg, and not just have to take the wagon or wherever. They could go to Lebanon and get things that they wouldn't have access to otherwise. Because the railway system we talked about in that series, it opened the world up to a lot of these villages, like Greenpoint, for instance, where I'm from. When the Tremont line went up through for the Reading Railroad, it opened up the wider world, because my dad used to talk about, they lived in Ravine, so they would have been along that line. They would have like 2 shopping days a year. One, they'd go to Lebanon, twice they go to Lebanon, but they also had another way of getting up to Pottsville. They go there sometimes too. Now the line, from what I'm aware, didn't go, it only went up to Tremont, but there was some kind of access that they could go to Tremont, and then Pottsville was maybe another 8-9 miles away, so there was another method of transportation, whether it be the bus or whatever it might have been. But it gave the whole world, was open to people for the most part, wide world that they hadn't experienced before. So these types of small towns like Shirksville that weren't on those lines, that existence of what Greenpoint's existence was, and the town of Murray, which was right down the road from them, and say Inwood, which would have been south, they didn't have that access. So their existence as those small town atmosphere where they were still self-sufficient probably lasted for another 50 years, basically. So it's very interesting to see how these towns evolved. So that video I want to do in a very specific way, but we have a bunch of good stuff coming up. It's just a matter of, like I said, I just want to make you guys aware. Like, I'm doing okay. It's just, you go through those phases sometimes, especially when you're just sort of bam, 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 getting hit with stuff. You reach a moment where it's like, I just need, trying to continue putting stuff up and trying to stay in contact, but you're just sort of beat. And that's just sort of where I'm at. Doing well. It's getting there. It's just one of those things. I just want to make you guys aware of what's going on with the channel. We're doing well. I think we're up to 1,180 now subscribers, which is cool. Finding out a lot more interesting stuff about how YouTube works. Still not exactly certain, but found out a number of the things that we're doing well, and we're actually ahead of the curve for smaller channels. Smaller channels, it's the bigger you get, the easier it is to grow. You just have to reach that milestone where your channel takes that jump and it goes to the next level, and then it just starts growing. But we're through the first phase of that, but ways to go. But I'm pretty darn happy with where we're at. It's just a matter of getting myself back to where I'm getting content out every single day, and figuring that out and going from there. But so I think, no, I did not cover everything. I wanted to say thanks. I don't have the cards with me because I forgot them, but I want to say thank you to Laura from Market Quest for her Christmas card. Thank you to those others who sent me Christmas cards. I had fully intended, I even went out and bought Christmas cards. I bought a book of stamps, and then I got sick, and I'm forgetful. I've had too many concussions in my life, I guess, but next year I want to have Christmas cards made up for the Hometown Historian and send them out to you all. And also I'd like to do like something where with the merch store as that opens, send things to people, and just as a thank you for supporting the channel, because the channel doesn't happen without you guys. At the end of the day, it's in all honesty. I understand I have a lot to do with that because of me creating the content and that kind of stuff, but without the encouragement, without you guys watching, without you guys giving of your time to do that, channel doesn't happen. Plain and simple. I want to say thank you to Kate for her card, encouraging note, and also I want to say thank you for the gift. I also want to say thank you to Debbie for your 2 super thanks gifts. Really awesome. Thank you. And I want to say thank you. I don't know who it was. Somebody sent me the Smithsonian magazine. I've probably mentioned before that that's probably my favorite historical magazine. It's just phenomenal. I got my first one a little while back, and really look forward to reading those, because there really are great magazines with all kinds of unique and cool history. So thank you to whoever that was, and thank you to everybody for supporting the channel, supporting me. It means a lot. And as always, I want to say we will see you all about town. Hey, I just want to say thank you for watching the video. If you could please like and subscribe. If you haven't already done so, that would be great. And we also have a Facebook page. We have an Instagram page. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a Patreon. There are ways of contacting us at thehometownhistorian@gmail.com, and also via mail at P.O. Box 143, Annville, Pennsylvania 17003. All that information is on the descriptions of each video and also in the about for the channel. So thank you once again, and we'll see you all about town.